In Commitment 2010 news, the campaign is in full swing for governor and lieutenant governor. Neil Abercrombie and Brian Schatz make up the Democratic ticket, and it's Duke Iona and Lynn Finnegan on the Republican side. Now, we've had Abercrombie, Schatz, and Iona on our morning news over the past week, and now we'd like to welcome Lynn Finnegan, who's a state representative, and she's the House Minority Leader. Good morning, Representative,
Good
and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your primary win.
Well, thank you so much.
So I have to ask you, first of all, why would you like the job of Lieutenant Governor?
You know, I think it's a great opportunity to help the state of Hawaii. With my policy background and being elected for the last 8 years in the State House of Representatives, I've learned quite a bit about our government and how it operates. I think I can lend that legislative background to Duke Iona as he's running for governor and create a full ticket. He has a judiciary and executive experience. I bring the legislative and private sector experience. So I really wanted to create a strong team for the people of Hawaii.
What bill have you passed in the legislature do you think that will be most representative of your qualifications for the job?
For the most part, as a Republican, the bills that we have our names on don't necessarily get passed that quickly. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell you, what I contributed to quite a bit in this past 8 years has been the growth and the ability to fight for the public charter school system here in Hawaii. It represents education reform here in Hawaii. And one of the huge things that I always like to talk about is when the state struggled with the whole Furlough Friday issue, 16 out of 31 public charter schools opted to not have Furlough Fridays. So that's a real hands-on, real experience that people can understand education reform can work in the existing structure, but things that we can look forward to for a vision to create a student-focused education.
Now, we recently had Brian Schatz on our air, and in terms of the ticket, he was talking about if Lieutenant Governor Duke Iona is elected governor, he would use Linda Smith in his administration. Linda Smith is Linda Lingle's senior policy advisor, and he basically said that this shows it would be more of the same if a Republican stays in office. What is your response to that?
I think it's quite laughable because, you know, at this point in time, we have people joining in and wanting to help with the campaign. I believe Linda Smith is one of those that is giving her input on different types of policy. But I also think it's the opportunity for many to speak up, and from policy being created on businesses by Duke Iona going out to businesses and talking to business over the years and making a concerted effort. This past, 100 days with his 120 days visiting 100 businesses, it's everyone coming to the table to help with this, the policy making. I also think that, it's so premature to say if who's going to be on a cabinet. There's so many things to consider. And taking the good that has been done in the last 8 years and being able to build on it would be a great advantage to hitting the ground running.
Mm-hmm. When you look at Duke Iona in terms of his views on issues, he is conservative fiscally and also socially he is conservative.
Yes.
But you talk to some of the other Republicans out there. Charles DeJoux comes to mind, Congressman. He says he's fiscally conservative, but in terms of his social views, he's a little more moderate, even on the liberal side. Where do you stand in terms of your fiscal views and your social views?
I'm a fiscal and social conservative. I think what you'll see is that Duke Iona and myself, we have very similar views, and I think the people of Hawaii need that balance in government here.
All right, Lynn Finnegan, thank you so much for joining us. Lynn Finnegan,
it's my pleasure.
A candidate for Lieutenant Governor. And if you'd like to see this interview again or view any of our segments on our morning news, you can go to kitv.com/this